This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
So if you agree, have a drink with me, raise your glasses for toast to a little bit of chicken fried.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you, of course, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. And now we are joined by Rivals National Basketball Analyst, Eric Bossy. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
We can't complain. Todd Leary with me as well here, back here in Bloomington. Just trying to get through this crazy time, but a lot of action going on right now. NCAA loan meeting and approving transfer resolution yesterday. They also approved voluntary return of athletic activities. So there's movement in sport, which is going to make a lot of us happy.
Yeah, no question. I mean, we'll take whatever we can get right now, right?
Exactly. I saw also yesterday, the new point guard rankings came out for 2020. The final rankings came out, and of course, Khristian Lander recently reclassifying, moving up to that 2020 class for the Hoosiers, and of course, his ranking was changed. But he's a good one for the Hoosiers, huh?
Yeah, definitely. You know, he's fast, he's aggressive, he's a scorer, which personally I love scoring point guards myself. I feel like the guy who has the ball in his hands the most needs to be a scoring threat, which is kind of a, change from what maybe people wanted out of a point guard in the past. A guy to just run the offense, play good defense. And getting him to come in a year early should hopefully be a good thing. I always worry about someone, especially somebody who needs to add strength like Lander does, skipping a year of high school and skipping a year of development. But absolutely, he's a good one.
Yeah, Todd, we've talked about so much what he brings instantly to this team with his talents.
Yeah, I mean, just the you make a great point in the ability to score. I mean, it's not that they haven't had that ability, but it's not been a threat. It's been a not a consistent thing that the basketball team can rely on. And having a guy like him, I think the days of seeing the traditional point guard and off guard or shooting guard and then a small forward and big forward and a center, those days at Indiana are over for a while. I mean, we're going to see a lot of guards on the floor for a long time, especially if they continue to recruit the way they are. And I don't think there's any problem with it. I mean, these guys are all athletic. Their height may not be great, but I think they play bigger than what they are. Strength will be an issue. But it's less of an issue than I think it used to be. And even though the Big Ten is a tough, known as a kind of a power conference, I don't think these guys are used to playing against big bodies, and the speed and quickness is a much bigger factor, I think, than the size.
And Eric, landing another recruit like Khristian Lander, a five-star, high profile. You got Trace Jackson before him and Romeo before that. It continues to bolster his recruiting. Instead, of course, they've got a top 11 recruiting class built on mostly in-state talent. Of course, out-of-state talent not yet coming, but that's probably a matter of time with the way he's dominated Indiana.
Yeah, no. If you look, you got the 2 5-stars with Langford and Lander, and then since he's been there, in-state guys have been ranked in the Rivals 150. You got Rob Finney, DeBeasy Anderson. You mentioned Trace Jackson Davis, Armand Franklin, and then you add in Anthony Leon and Trey Galloway this year. The idea is to lock up the guys in your backyard first, because that's what Tom Crean had done that a little bit early, but had really fallen off on the in-state recruiting by the time he was let go. And, every fan base wants the local kids, right? And I think we're going to start seeing a couple of those guys who have been in the program for a few years get better. Obviously, Trace Jackson Davis had a great freshman year. I think better than anyone could have even anticipated for most ambitious of projections for him. So it's what you want. And like I say, the out-of-state guys will come. You got Logan Duncombe, center, power forward, whatever you want to call him, from Cincinnati coming here next year, and they're focusing on some other guys. But typically you want to have regional guys, in-state guys, and that's what they're doing. So you got to be happy with it. I think they're poised to be on the verge of a breakthrough. I know there's going to be a lot of pressure this year to be kind of that breakthrough year for them. and I think the roster is in the best shape that it's been to do so. Romeo Langford was kind of a gift and a curse. You beat a bunch of big-time schools for a player, but you put so much into that one guy who's just there for 1 year, right? And if he doesn't hit big time, it can possibly set you back for a year or two. And now they're back in that position that they want to be. And, I would think this is going to be the biggest year for them.
Absolutely, Todd. You've talked about the talent there that now they have to win.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a position, and that's not to stir up anything and say anyone's on hot seats or anything like that. I mean, the pieces are there. I think the pieces that are there because of the coaching staff, and I think that those pieces have to translate onto the floor, and now all of a sudden, have sustained success. And when Indiana has had, or for most of the years under Coach Knight, I mean, they had the MO of they won all the games they were supposed to win, or the vast majority of them, and then home or away, it didn't really matter. Like, they would win a good portion of the games on the road, or that they weren't necessarily supposed to win. And that's not what this team has done. This team has been inconsistent in not even just road games, but defending home court. And that's something I think that they'll get back to. And having the in-state kids, I truly believe, will have an impact on that. And when you go try to, I'm not going to pin myself in the corner right now and even attempt to try to pick out what I think this would be. But when you sit down and look at the players that will be there next year, it's very difficult, I think, right now to identify a starting lineup. And that's because they've got a lot of talent, not because there's a bunch of holes in the roster. They've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of scoring punch all of a sudden, which, we did a show after every game last year. And, my frustration every game was, so I was never confident in saying this team was going to score more than 55 points. And I definitely don't feel that way with this team. So I'm yes, there's a lot of pressure. Yes. But that's what, I think Archie Miller wants that pressure. I think that coaching staff wants that pressure. It is, as a competitor, I certainly would hope so. And I think they do.
Eric, also next year, tons of talent in this 2021 class, in state, of course, but there's a lot of out of state guys that Archie's talking to and visiting Indiana and whatnot. But yet again, the biggest profile target for next year is down in southern Indiana, and of course another in-state talent would just continue to add to that. But that would continue to give him a roster of basically of complete talent.
Yeah, obviously Trey Kaufman is a major target, has been a major target for a while, and I think right now the competition is probably Purdue, another team that has been doing pretty well with its state talent, right? So I think trying to get the edge for Matt Painter and kind of edge ahead of him and those guys is very important. Also, Blake Wesley is another major in-state target. If you can get both of those guys, you'd be doing well. But, they're trying to expand, like you mentioned, trying to get the national guys. They're really five-star Aminu Muhammad, who's currently in the southwest Missouri area. Not exactly a traditional stronghold for the Hoosiers, right? 6'5", tough wing, major target for them. And Jordan Longino, a tough shooting guard from Philadelphia, is another one. Max Christie from the Chicago area. You've got Frank Kepning, a big guy from New York. They're really trying to expand that reach.
I think we lost him. I was waiting for him to come back there, but I think we may have lost him. You can put him in. He's still there. He's still there. We got him.
But I mean, that's a good point
he's still there.
Is he?
Go ahead, Eric.
Oh no, I was finished. I was just running some of the guys, but that they were on. But obviously, Kaufman is that big in-state guy is the centerpiece of what they're trying to do. I was explaining how they've got a couple 5-stars like Max Christie and Aminu Muhammad, and some near 4-stars like a big man, or near 5-stars Frank Kepning, a big man from out of state. That they're trying to keep the in-state talent, as we talked about earlier. Expand that reach a little bit. And they've got some guys that they're doing pretty well with.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle when it comes to having too many guys on your roster that are not from the area. When you have a program that is, that has a history of success, and Indiana is a unique school, and I think there's a handful of schools across the country that fall into that category of. I honestly think that they do a lot better when they have in-state talent, and it's not that I don't know that they need to mix a guy in here and there, but height is always going to be an issue with that. The state can be super, thick when it comes to having a lot of talent, but a lot of times it's a bunch of guards, and so I understand all that, but I don't fall into. I don't care where the class is ranked nationally, because quite frankly, the rankings are, when Khristian Lander can go from being the number 12 ranked overall player in the 2021 class, and he reclassifies to 2020, and he's the 25th overall ranked player in 2020. I question how you can just all of a sudden insert somebody into there.
Happens. First of all, the class of 2020 is better than the class of 2021. And it's a better class of point guards, okay? And second, what you're doing, and this is very important that people need to understand, you're stripping a year of development away from a kid and sending him to college as a 17-year-old versus an 18-year-old, competing against guys who are already older than him. That's a big thing. And that has to be accounted for when you're looking at things, that you need to lower the expectation bar a little bit. It doesn't mean he's not as good, but he's been thrown into a class of guys who are stronger as a class and definitely much stronger at his position. The class of 2021 at the point guard position is tracking as maybe the least talented group of point guards I've scouted in 20 years. So it's a very thin class at the point guard. So you've got to take that into account. But to your larger point, what I was going to get into is that, Archie Miller built a model of success at Dayton based on a certain style of roster and a certain style of play. He's now the closest he's come to duplicating that in Indiana, except he's doing it with higher level players. And at the end of the day, that's what you're looking for. You've got what has worked for you. You've got a system in place, and you're trying to you got to be flexible with the players in it too. You got to play to your talent level, the system that matches your talent. But at the end of the day, you've got to have something that kind of guides you. You've got to have a blueprint. He's got the players that most fit that blueprint now, and he's got them at a higher level than he had at Dayton. And so we should be seeing success now in this coming year. And once that gets going, you should see that he's got a roster with, he's got seniors, he's got juniors, he's got sophomores, he's got freshmen. We should be able to have some consistency going now. And I think that, if you're a Hoosier fan, is what should be the most important thing right now.
Yeah, and honestly, I think you kind of missed my point in what I was saying, and a lot of times I don't do a good job of expressing that. But I think 25 is ranked too high. I don't think that they can go from him being ranked 12th in the 2021 class to being 25th in the 2020 class. I would have said it'd been more like 75th. So I'm in agreement with you. There's a lot of factors that go into reclassifying someone like that. I just don't when you have put him against other players in that age group throughout. And I'm not trying to pick on the system. I'm saying I don't care whether the class is ranked 11th or 20th. It doesn't matter to me, because your second point is the proof to me of what that class means. I mean, this class to Indiana is ideal. Like, if they had 3 5-stars in there that were all going to be one and dones, they would be ranked, in the top 3, and I would be extremely disappointed as a fan. So
you're going to have a good year, and then you're going to lose guys, and you're not going to have any consistency in the program. I get it. Yeah, it's a tough deal trying to project these guys when they switch classes, because you've been evaluating them as one point, and we haven't seen Lander play against all those guys in 2020, right? He's been playing against the 2021 guys, so.
Yeah, we got to see him for one summer, basically, because he played up with that group last year with Anthony Leal and Galloway. But we haven't seen, a lot of these guys have been playing against each other since the 8th grade. I mean, I go to all the AAU tournaments as well. I know when you can watch those guys progress over seasons, you can really evaluate them.
You're watching those guys, and you're like, oh, wow, he's doing pretty good, and he's only in the class of 2021. Imagine how he's going to be in another year, right?
Right.
But,
yep. Exactly.
If you'd been watching him as, okay, this guy's 2020, you'd think, oh, okay, he's pretty good, but there's a difference in how you see things. That's a great point you have. So, it's a crapshoot. I think anyone who does rankings has to be willing to admit, there are going to be mistakes. It's an imperfect science, but I do think at the end of the day, Lander's a talent. But your point here that I think you have to love about Lander is he doesn't project as a one and done guy, and I think by his birthday, I don't even think he's eligible for the NBA draft next year.
For 2 years.
I'm going to double check that because I don't think he turns 19 until the year. I think he turns 18 in 2020 or 2021. Pardon me. So he's not eligible for the 2021 draft because you have to be a year removed from high school and 19-year-old by the current rules. So you've got him for at least 2 years, which that's the number one thing, and that's what was so important about getting him in. Okay, maybe he won't be quite what he would be in a first year in the 2021-2022 season, but it beats that being his only season, right? And, we've got some consistency going, and you can also get an extra year to figure out, okay, do we need to account for this guy earlier? Do we need to make sure that there's a replacement in the 2021 or 2022 class, or are we going to have this guy for a couple more years? And it gives you multiple ball handlers. Poor Rob Finney has really had a lot of pressure on him the last couple of years, right? As a point guard, easing his burden is going to be a huge deal, I think.
Yeah, Todd, we talk about that a lot. Not only that, just competition and the minutes. Having someone, Archie's been trying to get that backup point guard for a couple of years, and now he's got a good one.
Yeah, he's got just a bunch of different pieces. It's not like I said, like Jim. When we sit down and talk about it all the time and try to analyze a starting lineup, I mean, we could have a 3-hour debate on our show right now about whether Khristian Lander will come in and start over the top of Rob Finney or next to Rob Finney. I mean, it is going to be plenty of opportunity to see these guys on the floor at the same time.
Absolutely. Eric Bossy, I cannot thank you enough. Rivals National Basketball Analyst. He's the guy if you want to turn to for keep track of what's going on in the analytical world for basketball. I cannot thank you enough for joining us, man. Look forward to doing it again in the future.
Appreciate you guys having me on. I enjoyed it.
This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook. Follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary or simply go to thehoosier.com.